What's going on, guys? It's Brandon back here again for a video that we did last year, However, I wanted to take a look at it again because I think it's just really intriguing to see which teams the Blackhawks do the best against and the worst against in every year. So the Hawks finished the record, as we know, with a record of 26, 49, and 7. So throughout this, we have 4 columns. We have wins, overtime wins, losses, and overtime losses. The little, stars I put next to teams means that the Hawks were swept by that team during the year. There are 9 of them on the board. And then just little dashes mean that the Hawks swept that team, which there are 2 of on the board. So we're going to go through this, or just see which teams they did the best against this year, and which teams they did the worst against. So the way I put the format in is essentially the way they played teams. So we started the season against Colorado and went to Vegas, San Jose, so we go down that way. And then if we play a team multiple times, and before we play another team, we just skip over that again, and we'll just go on to the next team. So, for example, in between the Island Rangers and the Devils here was the Islanders. However, we played the Islanders earlier in the season, all the way back here. So we just skip that and just keep moving on. So we'll start at the top with the Colorado Avalanche. Playing the Avalanche 3 times this year, the Hawks gained 1 win, no OT wins, 2 losses, and no overtime losses. The games they win 3-2, and the games they lost 5-2 and 5-0. So, against Colorado, the defending champion, not too bad. Against Vegas, 0 wins, 1 overtime win, 2 losses, and 0 overtime losses. Excuse me. They lose 1-0, 4-1, and they win the shootout 3-2 for that overtime win. Against San Jose, they go 1-1-1-0. They win 4-3 and they win 5-2 and then for the win, 4-3 in a shootout for the OT win, and they lose 5-2 for that loss. On to Detroit, they win 4-3 in overtime. My brain just had an aneurysm. So they win 4-3 in overtime for this, and then they lose 4-3 for that loss. And so we get 500 against Detroit, not too bad. Against Seattle now. They win 5-4 to get their 1 win. They have no overtime wins, and they have 2 regulation losses and no overtime losses. They lose 8-5 and 7-3. They gave up a combined 19 goals to Seattle this year. They gave up 18 to Winnipeg. I remember that was with the title of one of my videos, or for one of my BFRs. But, against Seattle, not really the greatest season. A lot of high-scoring games when they played each other. Now, against Florida, they win 4-2. For their 1 regulation win, and they don't have an OT win. They don't have a loss in regulation, but they do lose an OT 4-3. So they take 3 out of 4 points there. So overall, a positive ratio against Florida somehow. Now against Edmonton, we get to our first star. Edmonton sweeps them. However, 2 of the games were close. They lose 6-5, 5-4, and 7-3, and those are all in regulation. So they go 0-0. 3-0, according to this. You get swept by Edmonton, and it would be the first of 8 sweeps on this board. Against Buffalo, they go 0-1-0-1, so that means they, for their overtime win, they win 4-3, and for their overtime loss, they lose 4-3. So, basically just offset each other there. Against Minnesota, they go 0-0-3-1, so we have a star there because they sweep them. They lose 4-3 in the shootout for their 1 overtime loss here. They lose 4-1, 3-1, which is the game I was at, and 4-2 for those 3 regulation losses. So there's another star there, second star against Minnesota, as Minnesota sweeps them in 4. Against the Islanders, we have another star because the Islanders also beat them in every appearance. They go 0-0-2-0, so they lose 3-1 and 3-0 to the Islanders. Against the Kings, they win their first appearance. They win 2-1 in overtime to get their OT win, as they have no regulation wins. They lose 2-1 and 2-1 in overtime for those 2 losses, 1 in regulation and 1 not in regulation. And moving on to Winnipeg. They go 0-0-4-0, which is the worst record against any team on the board, I believe. That is correct. They lose 4-0, 7-2, 3-1, and 4-1. As Winnipeg sweeps them in 4, so literally as they go 0-4 against Winnipeg, no matter which way you look at it. And that's another star, so that's 4 of the 9 stars that are on the board for teams that swept them. And moving on, we have Anaheim, a team that's most likely going to get Bedard at this point. I'm going to keep bringing that up. So they go 1-0, 1-1, so they win 3-2. That was a game I remember that they were down 2-0 and they should have lost. They lose 3-2 in overtime for that OT loss, and they lose 4-2 as well. So they take 3 out of 6 points from Anaheim, as Anaheim takes 4 out of 6 points from them. Against Carolina, they're swept as they lose 3-0 in both games, just for the two regulation losses, so 0-0, 2-0. Against the Blues, almost swept. They lose 5-2, 3-1, and 5-3 for 3 regulation losses. The one game they win 5-3, and so they go 1-0, 3-0. Against Boston, the team you'd expect them to be swept by, they go 1-0, 1-0. So they lose 6-1 in Boston, and then they beat them in Chicago. That was the game where Radish had a hat trick. That was a 6-3 win for Chicago. It's flabbergasting that a team with 65 wins lost to Chicago. Now against Pittsburgh, in Chicago they lose 5-3, but in Pittsburgh they win 5-2, so they go 1-0, 1-0, same as Boston's record. And yeah, and moving on to Dallas. They definitely should have gone 0-0, 4-0. However, they lose 6-4, 5-2, and 4-1, and then they're losing 3-0, and they come back and win 4-3 in regulation, so they end up going 1-0, 3-0 instead of 0-0, 4-0. Against Montreal, we have another star, as they're swept for the 6th time on the board. They lose 3-2 in a shootout and 4-0, so they go 0-0, 1-1, and they take 1 out of 4 points from Montreal. Against the Rangers, they win 5-2 in New York, and then they come home and lose 7-1 in Chicago, so they go 1-0, 1-0, 1 regulation win, 1 regulation loss, and nothing else. Against New Jersey and Washington, we have 2 sweeps. Against New Jersey, they lose 3-0 and 6-3, they go 0-0, 2-0. And against Washington, they lose 7-3 and 6-1, they go 0-0, 2-0. It's funny because last year they ended up sweeping Washington, so Washington really turned tables on them, and this year they're not even in the playoffs. Moving on, against Nashville, they play 3 games against this year. It's funny, there's some Central Division teams they play 3 games against. If anything, I think they should play 4 against Nashville, as that's one of their bigger rivals. They definitely should not play 4 against Winnipeg. I can't stand watching Winnipeg. That is my least favorite team to watch in the league. I just get so bored watching their games. And that's why I did not want them to get that last playoff spot, because I know when they're playing Vegas, I hope you make it quick. But with all the star power the Jets have, who knows? But so yeah, Nashville, they go 1-0, 2-0 against. They lose 4-2 and 3-1, but get that last meeting, they win 2-1. So they get that 1 regulation win, 2 regulation losses, nothing else. Against Columbus, they're as I like to say, Chicago's eastern counterpart. Not bad enough to be the worst, but not good enough to be decent. So they win 5-2 and they lose 4-1, so they go 1-0, 1-0. And we're on this last stretch here. 2 more teams that sweep them and 2 more teams that get swept by them. Yep. So against Tampa, they lose 4-1 and 3-1. They go 0-0, 2-0. Expected. Against Arizona, they go 1-1, 2-0. So 4 games against there. Again, they play Arizona 4 times, yet they play they played Minnesota 4 times. They played Winnipeg 4 times. They played Colorado 3 times. I'm looking at their division right now. They played St. Louis 4 times, Dallas 4 times, Nashville only 3 times. I don't know why it works like that. But against Arizona, they win 2-0. They win 4-3 in overtime, and then the last 2 meetings they lose 4-1 and 4-2. So they take 4 out of 8 points against Arizona, while Arizona takes 5 out of 8 points. Now against Calgary, they get their first sweep of the season. They win 4-3 in overtime, 5-1 and 4-3 to go 2-1, 0-0. That's the one team I think that they have 2 wins in the first column. 1-1-0s, all 1s and 0s, and yeah, Calgary's the only team they have 2 regulation wins against this entire season. Now, moving on to Philadelphia, they win 4-1 in Philly, their first win in Philly since '96 in the regular season, and they lose 5-4 in overtime in the last game of the season. They win in regulation. They get the 1 win, so 1-0-0, and they lose 1 game in overtime, so 1-0-0-1. And we go to Vancouver, who sweep them, the last sweep on the board. 0-3-0 for Vancouver. They lose 5-2, 4-2, and 3-0 against the Vancouver Canucks. Again, funny because Vancouver is not a playoff team. How many of these teams that they go against are not playoff teams that they're swept by? Oilers are in, Minnesota's in, Islanders are in, Winnipeg is in, Carolina is in, Montreal is out, Washington is out, New Jersey is in, Tampa's in, Vancouver's in. So 3 of the 9 teams that sweep them are non-playoff teams. So that's interesting. And the 2 teams they sweep are not playoff teams either. So against Toronto now, they lose 5-2 in the first meeting, and they win 5-3 in the second meeting. A game I really wish was televised because I couldn't watch it. Because not only were they at home, Hawks were wearing white, and Toronto was wearing their black jerseys, and I love those Toronto black jerseys. Only good jerseys Toronto's ever had. So 1 win, 0 losses, 0 OT wins, 1 loss, and 0 overtime losses, 1-0, 1-0. Now the second team they sweep is also the last team they play during the season, the Ottawa Senators. They win 4-3 in overtime, and then they win 5-0. That was their biggest win of the year. I remember that game. And they go 1-1, 0-0. So, yeah, on the board you have swept 9 times, and then swept 2 teams. So there we go. So of the 31 remaining teams besides the Hawks, there are 20 teams that were neither swept nor did sweep the Hawks. So hopefully we start getting better from here. This was supposed to be the bottom out year. Hopefully we get, if we win the lottery, all sins are cleansed. But I would hope from then on now we start to get a bit better every year. Of course, if things don't get better, we want to just tank for the number 1 pick, but you can only do so much. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. I'll have more videos up today. It's going to be a busy couple days now with the playoffs coming up. Previews will be coming out soon. Still got to do a review of the season, of my standings predictions for the regular season, and then the final power rankings of the season. And then I'm debating whether or not I should do all the playoff previews and the playoff predictions video, those 9 videos. I'm debating whether or not I should do those over the next 2 days. We'll see. So I'll think about this now. So I shall thank you guys so much for watching, and I shall see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.